Apple Maps and Google Maps, right? And at the end of the day, it's about people being able to find you. At the end of the day, if people can't come to know where you're at, they're not gonna be able to find you. So Apple Maps and Google's is a great tool, Androids and Apple phones. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit today. And
doing business these days is getting harder and harder. At the Ahwatukee Chamber of Commerce and Ahwatukee Power Partners, we're trying our best to fix that by bringing great information like the video you're watching right now. With that, let's get back to the video. I'm Rick Allen, facilitator for the Ahwatukee Power Partners, one person per profession networking group associated with the Ahwatukee Chamber of Commerce.
So I'll start by saying that I'm not a presenter and I'm not a professional in what I'm going to speak to, but what I can give you is a business owner's point of view, which a lot of times can be a little bit relatable, that I have found has been very helpful for me. So in the last 4 years, I always say this, but when Andy met me 4 years ago, I had a full set of hair. Now you fast forward to 4 years and here I am, right? And with a restaurant. But one of the things when Andy approached me about it to be able to talk about this, normally I would have told him, I'm not an expert, nor do I have a lot of experience, but it just happened that I went through this most recently. We just opened up 2 restaurants, 2 other Kolache Cafés, and we're very grateful to the Ahwatukee market. Because of Ahwatukee growth we experience here, we were able to open 2 additional ones in Mesa, 1 in Chandler, and then we have one opening up here in about a month and a half in Gilbert as well too. And so in doing those, there's a lot of things that I learned when it comes to Apple Maps and Google Maps, right? And at the end of the day, it's about people being able to find you, right? And so I think I heard a couple people here that do marketing for the most part. So, you know, hire very good people and expertise to be able to get that presence. But at the end of the day, if people can't come to know where you're at, they're not going to be able to find you. So Apple Maps and Google's is a great tool. Can be a little tricky to navigate through. If you're not on these 2 top platforms, there's others out there. I think there's someone with a little van, or Wazo or something like that. Yeah, some of them are actually connected to each other. So the top 2 ones most people own are Androids and Apple phones. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit today. And please feel free to me any questions as I'm going through this, just because I stumbled through this as I was going through it, and there's a lot of information and a lot of frustrations that can come from it as well too. And I'll share some of my stories. But at the end of the day, let me pull up our business. So I'll start with our Apple. First of all, does anybody have any questions about me or anything that we've done or anything that you guys have any questions about? Yes.
Just opening up your cafe, have you opened up a restaurant before or a cafe previously?
Great question. So we were just talking about that. So no, actually I am experienced in the past is not in the restaurant business. I actually was specialty healthcare. So I actually ran a few companies in the country, including one here. Are you guys familiar with Clean Freak car washes?
Yeah.
The company was purchased by Goldman Sachs, and I was brought in to run that company as they consolidated. So what they were doing is buying all these different car washes across the country, and that's who I worked for here recently. I did LASIK, I worked in hearing aids, I worked in car, I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car right out of college, so for you guys who are familiar with that. At the end of the day, I learned one thing, and this is for you guys, this is kind of skipping this, but for me, how I built a business was on 3 things: people, process, and product. And that's it. And so if I figured out how to be able to kind of down to those 3 things, and it seemed to work. And that I've been able to apply that for every business that I had an opportunity to be able to work in. So great question.
Where's your new location in Chandler?
It's right on the border of Mesa and Chandler on Guadalupe and Elm School. It's the old Dickey's. Like if you guys ever remember Dickey's barbecue, so we took over that building. Yeah. And in Mesa, it's on Gilbert and Southern. Very cool. But interestingly enough, it goes back to this, right? So they don't know where we're at. And so again, if you guys can spend a lot of money in marketing, but if people can't find you, it becomes very frustrating. One of the frustrating things for me when I was opening our location on Gilbert and Southern is that we ended up opening before we were on Apple Maps. So what ended up happening is we were spending money on advertisement, and when people went to go find us, they couldn't find us. And people were like calling us, "Where are you? I don't see you. Are you guys open? What's going on?" And so just because you advertise doesn't mean that people are going to necessarily find you, right? They may go to your website, but a lot of people, especially if they're driving, and especially if you're in a brick or mortar, they need to be able to know where you're at. So it's important that you have the information down so it makes it easy for them. A lot of times when people are driving, being able to say, hey Siri, or what's the other one? Google or Alexis, right? Or I think it's Google or Alexis. You can actually voice text, and that is all connected to maps as well too. But anyway, so I wanted to show you the background. But in order to be able to get to on maps, you have to go what's called to Apple Business Connect. And that is the actual website where you go into to be able to get your business on there. And I'll show you what it looks like here. So right here, it literally says Business Apple Connect. And the reason why I bring this up is because when I was actually trying to find it the first time, I was looking for maps. I was like, Apple Maps, why can't I find it? How do I get on there? And it turns out where you want to be able to build your presence is what's called Apple Business Connect. I'll pull it up here. And ultimately, this is what it looks like, right? We go back to the business page here. So if you look at mine, so you'll notice that this is what it's going to look like. And you can add any businesses. So you can go in here, add your location, add your brand. So interestingly enough, something that happened to me while I was going through this, here are my 4 locations. And you'll see something interesting here. So if you notice, I have 4 locations. One of them, which is still in review, which just happens to be the one that has been open for 4 years, right? The other 2 that are actually recently opened are actually already in verified. And then I actually tried to get our new location on there before we actually opened, and it was denied. Now, you may ask, why was it denied? Apple actually will go into your social media and your website to confirm that your business is actually open when you say that you're open, and that you've actually opened that. And so they actually went to my website and they saw that one of my new locations said coming soon, so it was declined. And obviously I can't turn it on because if I said we're open, then that would send customers over to our new location as well too. So super important that, and it takes a long time. So if you notice, one of the most frustrating things you guys are going to encounter with both Google and Apple, at least I did, and maybe you guys have a solution for it, but I couldn't talk to anybody. There's not a phone number that you can call and say, Apple, hey Google, I'm having issues with not being approved. And so what happens is they'll send you back an email back. And then it usually takes 4 to 5 days to respond back. It takes another 4 to 5 days, and then you respond back. It takes another 4 to 5 days. By this time, now you're 15, 20 days into possibly opening your business. So it's really important that before you get to that point, you do some research on what potential things can hold up your brand from being open. Here's one that happened to me. So see this brand right here? This is, brand, company. If you go to company, so this is where my brand is. So basically what it allows me to be able to do is, for those of you that are, as your business grows and you decide to have multiple offices or multiple people or multiple locations, you actually get a brand. And every time you open a new location, everything stems into that brand. So you don't have to fill out all of the information again. But something happened to me while I was actually opening the other locations. I went in here to update it, and then it got declined. So it declined my actual brand, and I couldn't figure out why. And so all of a sudden, not only was this turned off, but all of my locations were off the map. So as a business owner, you can imagine what that does to us, right? Everybody trying to find us can't find us. Well, it turns out that the reason why is because if you go in here, there is a picture that you have to put. See this picture right here? If you guys ever go to Starbucks or any major brand out there, go into the Apple's map. And you're going to see a picture very similar to that. And the reason why that is because it has to be a specific size, right? And it cannot be altered. And it has to be taken with an actual phone. So one of the things I noticed was when I went into Starbucks, I looked at their picture and I'm like, that's kind of weird. It looks kind of not like brand specific Starbucks. And that's the reason why, is because that picture had to be taken from a phone and it could not be altered. Meaning you couldn't crop it, you couldn't change sometimes you can make it darker, lighter, filters. And it seems like it's such a elementary thing, but it literally stopped me for almost 3 weeks because I couldn't figure it out. And so what ended up happening, the way I was fixing it was I kept adding a new picture, But in my mind, it wouldn't fit, so I would use Canva to make it a little smaller, send it out, and it would take 5 days for it to come back and tell me it's declined. But they wouldn't tell me what was the problem. They just say it does not apply. Please read the Apple specifications. Well, if you go to that, it looks like it's 20 pages long. And so, and again, somebody told me, what are some of the things that are big? This is a big deal because it literally stopped my business from being on Maps for almost over 2 weeks. And that is crazy. And all that is taking a picture on the side and having it not altered at all. So it literally had to be sent in unaltered. And that is a big deal. So anyway, any questions about that? I know it seems kind of weird, but that is how Apple and Google work. To have them contact you is going to be very difficult. Now, if you notice something here, there is no help button here. Do you guys notice that at all? There's no help button. So if you want to get a hold of them, how are you going to get a hold of them? Well, it took me a while, and it's actually very simple. I just didn't know how to be able to do it. But if you go into your name, literally it says support. And then you send it in. This is all you can see. There's no phone number. You can either send an API documentation or just contact us. And then that's it. And then it actually comes back to you, and they ask for whatever the changes need to be done. But there is not a phone number you can actually call. And that's why I think it's super important that this is filled out correctly, because it will set you back. And this applies for not just brick and mortar, because if it'll ask you if people come to you, if you go to them, if it's only a website, but it'll prevent you from actually building your brand. And if you have a place where people go to, this is super important. Any questions about that? Is everybody familiar with this back end of the business?
That's why you're here.
Well, but it's interesting. But let's go ahead and add one. And please stop me. Stop me if you have any questions. Now, here's another one for you guys. See this review that says review here? So the reason why that's still in review is because I made a change. I went back and changed one of the words in there. Boy, was that a mistake. Because now I have to wait for it to be reviewed and approved. And once it's approved, you actually have to take it off and then put it back on again and then go through the whole process again for it to be approved. So you can't get it approved from that one. So I actually have to go in, delete that, add another business location, change whatever they said was wrong, and then it'll actually get approved in 5 days. And I only know that because I went through the same process with the other two. And
What did you change for a word, Jose?
the description of the product that I had. But because everything that is changed in the background has to be approved. You cannot just change it and then save it, and then all of a sudden it pops up in your website.
So this is almost like applying for a patent.
So it was definitely one of the most frustrating things for me, because there is nothing like spending your hard-earned money into opening a business and then people can't find you, right? And that is why when he said this, I'm like, oh, I got some stories that you wouldn't even know. And so for me, it was terrifying to know that I opened and people didn't know what it was, because every customer matters as business owners. When you first open, that dead silence of being in business for that first year when people aren't coming in and you don't know why, and that's kind of the fear it brought back. So,
In your experience, when you do those edits, does it take your website, does it take it off as they're approving it, or does it maintain an active status while they're approving it?
so this does not impact your website. What it impacts is your information on the search when people go to Maps. If you go to Google Maps and you research your business, whatever you in there may or may not show up, right? That's where this shows up in the information. But for me, for whatever reason, one would show up and the other one. And I'll get into some of the other stuff that's really weird, but to answer your question, it's you have a specific that you're selling service that you want to word differently because you find out that it's not working on people are searching you. That's where it's going to get delayed. And it'll show unverified. So sometimes you go into a business and it says verified, and so for whatever reason, some people are okay with it, some people are not. Like I want a business that's verified, right? Especially in today's era. Well, that would prevent you to be able from being verified, as it has right now. My store that's been open for 4 years, and so. You had a question?
Use words when they're. You use kolache. Do you use breakfast? Do you use?
I think a lot of it has to do with like optimization, and that gets to a little bit different. Like you're building and we'll get into Google, but to answer your question,
Okay.
yes, the Google is more about that.
Okay.
Here, they limit how many words you can use. Like, only want you, like, it actually tell you you have to do it within 4 like characters. You have to be able to be very selective in the words that you use as well too. Yeah. This is the trickiest one I found. Google's a little bit. Now I'm gonna talk a little secret about you as well too. You can actually be on Apple Maps without you ever filling this out. Do you guys know how that happens? Customer knows about your business and Google's, automotive, but you don't have this set up yet, and they can't find you, and they will actually go in there and report it as, hey, this location is actually here. And then Apple will put it on there as a unverified business. And so, like Elmo School location, somebody actually went in there and did a Yelp review, even before we were open. But it just happened they got confused and they had applied to that one. So it put it on Apple Maps. And then asked me if this was my business, so you needed to verify the business. But it was actually created by a customer. Yeah. One other thing, if you ever go to Apple Maps, one thing you'll notice, there are no Google reviews. They are all Yelp reviews. So Apple Maps and Yelp have now teamed up, and all reviews actually go through your Yelp. And so you guys know about Yelp. We all have different opinions about Yelp, right? But at the end of the day, it'll actually show you. So if you go into your phone right now on Apple Maps and pull it up, you will pull up Yelp reviews on there. So specifically to that. And then Google obviously being Google reviews as well too. But that's something that I found that the hard way. I was like, Yelp, who cares about Yelp? And then I pull up my Apple Maps, and then all of my reviews are on there. I'm like, more important than I thought, right? Because you have no control over that, what the customers are actually putting in there. And they, again, even if you don't have a Yelp account, customers can still put a Yelp review on your business. So you guys know that. And so found out the hard way. Any questions about that? I know I can go through the process, but the process is very, fill this in, click here, are you open, that kind of stuff. But it is very important you go through the whole process because you do want to be able to be found on Apple Maps. Here's the other part, and this is something that he had mentioned. You create your business name, you want to be careful of the words that you use. Because if you see businesses where they have a business that their title doesn't tell them what they are, and then it's very difficult. And I'll tell you that story. Before I opened my business, great idea that I came up with was going to be called the Kolache Hut. First of all, how many people know what a kolache is, right? How many people know what a kolache was before we opened? Yeah. So not a lot of people, right? But if I say, how many of you guys know what a hamburger is? Everybody, right? So kolache, I almost made the mistake of putting the name of my business, the Kolache Hut. So if you don't know what a kolache is, what would you think that business is? Who knows? I mean, so many different variations of what that business is. At the end of the day, people wouldn't be able to find me because no one would know it's a food.
Last name Hut.
Hut, right? But in my head, I had this great idea, Pizza Hut, why not say Kolache Hut? And I spent all this time on creating a logo that looked like a hut. And then I presented it to one of my business partners, and he's like, what's a hut? What do you mean what's a hut? It's Pizza Hut. I was like, nope, we're not doing that. And so we ended up actually changing it to cafe. Because at least people knew that we were food or coffee. But people get so hung up on your name a lot of times because you want to create something that is your name. I would highly recommend not do that. Make sure that in your name it says what it is that you do and what is people are going to be asking for. And I'm some of the experts in digital marketing will tell you that that's like a right? It's a big deal. But mistakes all the time. It's this really creative name. It's now, but I don't know that it was before. Anybody that was frozen yogurts. And one of the things I would recommend when doing this is that you have a name that people know what it is that you do. If you sell insurance, insurance has got it on there. If you sell automotive repair, it's got to be automotive repair in there as well too. Before you put our name on as well too. So, any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
So what is kolache again?
Very good question.
Say it.
Yeah, but that's very important. So it's it's a kolache. So kolache is actually a Czech pastry, and if you haven't noticed, I am not Czech, but I say it a Holiday Inn. I'm just kidding. No, but anyway, I lived in Houston, and in Houston, kolaches are a big deal. Actually, you mentioned Louisiana. Actually, in Louisiana, there's a kolache. It's basically, but in Texas, they have what's called a Texas savory kolache, which is basically breakfast in a bun. That's what that is.
So with you putting cafe in the name, when we think of cafe, we think of like drinks and.
Exactly, exactly. So you may not know exactly what it is, but you know that it sells something that you can eat, right? So now at least, okay, cafe. And so is it a perfect? No, but there wasn't words that I could figure out that would describe a kolache in a title for a name. Otherwise, I would have done it, right? But that would have been like a long. And that's why a lot of times, be careful that you use these little things that seem cool, but if people can't find you, it's not going to be cool enough, unfortunately. So, yes, ma'am.
Also, if you your computers or buy things from Apple, when you go there, they'll set you up with a business team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know if it's helpful or not,
Yeah.
but they will like call you and set things up.
Okay, good. This mine is 15 years old, so they probably didn't have that when I bought mine, unfortunately. but everybody has an Apple computer, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't let that be something that holds you back from being able to get as many customers as possible as well. But no, that's a great. I didn't know, only because I'm cheap and I've had my computer for 15 years. But, you know, anything about this here? This is a really cool tool for people to find you, but it's got to be used, and you have to be, you know, those big watch outs for me is when you review, my biggest thing is when you're going through this process, make sure that you know exactly what you're going to put in there to try to avoid going back in there again and having it update again. That's what I would say, because I made that mistake, you know.
How often do you find that you go into here to validate, update?
That's a question. Not as much as I have this year, only because of the new locations and, you know, and with new locations and new investment comes new fears. And when you have new fears, you tend to check more things out because you want to make sure that you're prepared, as what happened to me. You know, I do stores, they was not supposed to be the way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be spread out, but it is what it is. And so I started checking everything and making sure that people could find us and making sure that my information was correct. And even then, you still see in review. Well, that's because I didn't want to go, at the time, I was so already frustrated. I'm like, I'm in again, I'll go back to it. So now that I've done this class, I have to go back and do it. Yes.
So because of Apple and Yelp, do you now focus more on Yelp than you did in the past?
100%. Like, I think I would go weeks without looking at my Yelp reviews just because, you know, everybody has an opinion of Yelp. And so what that might be, for me, kind of just, you know, it's a big deal. Google, unfortunately, I didn't find out about it until I went through this process of how important the Yelp reviews were, you know, and like, well, you know, good. So to answer your question, I think we should all be giving great customer service to every customer, but I think you're right. You start putting more focus again, and then you start answering some of those responses, right? We get a little lazy sometimes with some of those reviews, and we don't necessarily respond back to them, but I think customers appreciate that as well too, especially if we save them.
Maybe I don't know because we're fairly new, but so Google reviews are were pushed really hard for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yelp, we haven't actually set anything up with Yelp.
You don't have to. The Yelpers will set them up for you.
Yelp, the people, like the business people for Yelp, they'll contact you
Yeah.
forever.
Mhm.
Indicate want to do something on Yelp.
Yes, they will. But like I said, you not filling the information out on Yelp does not mean that you will not get a
So
Yelp
people
review.
still can give you a
Absolutely.
Yelp
If
review.
you go into your business, the Yelpers will go in there and they'll pull up your business. And if it's not on there, they'll add it. They'll literally go in there and add your business to the Yelp review. And that's, you know,
They from Google.
yeah.
As soon as you attach yourself to Google, man, it's like,
Yeah.
freedom.
That, like, I'm not going to Google, I'm going to do Yelp.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because they get perks for it as well too. But anyway, I don't know if you guys know this. Do you know that the Yelpers get perks for it? Yeah. So I'll give you a perk that I just did, and you may not know about this. So 3 weeks ago, I was approached by Yelp, and because again, new business, and I found out that it's how important Yelp's reviews are through Apple. There is a program where you actually the top. You the number on it. It can be 100, 50, 100, 150 to 200. They will invite them personally to your store to eat free food or free service or whatever it is. And then they'll write a review that doesn't actually go on your Yelp review, but it's just internally for you to actually see how your business is doing. But it will not go on your review.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's interestingly enough, but you have to give your free service to those Yelpers. So I have to give, I think my total investment was, a couple in free, and that whole week they come in and they get free food, they bring their hands. So it does help promote that. Awareness, because bring other people with them and they do buy, like for example, in my case, I a free combo, like a free combo that's like $7. Then they have an opportunity to be able to sell up. So that you don't make any money for sure, but it allows that brand awareness, especially for something like me, that people don't know what I am. And so that, yeah.
I think they can write a review for you later.
Yes, they can.
The internal review is just like, hey, we went there, thank you very much. We liked the food, it was warm, it was hot, your service was fantastic. Then they can go on and write a review. So you know right that if good Yelpers, and there's a lot of bad Yelpers, but if they're good Yelpers, they'll help you out.
Yeah, and they'll back. At the end of the day, if you have a good service, it's just a one time, you want them to be able to come back. You already set that precedence. Is it a long-term investment? It could be, depending on how rich that offer that you give them. But these guys go into steakhouses, and they give them a whole week of come in and they cater them. So there is some value that comes with it. It is hard to measure it, unfortunately, as is most marketing as well, too, right? And so, but I'm sorry, somebody had a question here.
I did, so for the people that come from Yelp to review, are they just regular people like you and I?
You have to have an account. Like in order to review somebody on Yelp, you do have to have a Yelp account. But it's, minutes.
Literally
No,
just like a regular person.
it's just like a review.
It's like a secret shopper.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just Google review, it's the same as that. It's just Yelp.
But it's not like kind of offer, but not because they tell you they're with Yelp and you know that.
It's just
So like, I respond via Google on all my reviews. Also, when I go places, because I'm active, I give them a Google review.
Right.
I'm looked at as, this is not the right word, but as a local legend. That's
Right.
what he's
Right.
referring to.
Yeah. So different
They're a
programs.
trusted resource
Yes.
within Yelp's community.
Exactly.
And give legitimate feedback as opposed to all the imposters out there.
100%.
Going back and giving shitty reviews the
Yep.
one time or just to get the,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
letting them impact you as
Yeah.
much.
These specific, you're invite only, and there's actually a list. When they come to my restaurant, like there's a list, we check them off to see who showed up. But they're considered like what he's, because if you do a lot of them, they're considered kind of experts arena. And then that gives you the feedback as a business owner to be able to make those improvements. Now your Google reviews, Yelp reviews are just done by any person. Like if I go to a restaurant, I'm really, unfortunately, if I'm really upset, I'm gonna do a Yelp review. Oh, I have to set up my account real quick, and then bam, I can send it out. And then it's there forever. But you have to balance, right? At the end of the day, you get the good with the bad. You get the Yahoos with reviews. And at the end of the day, as business owners, we can take that feedback and use it. You can always tell which feedback is correct and which ones is not. And as consumers, I think we all can look at that as well and go, okay, Yahoo, now let's that one. You can actually tell when that's a legitimate review. Long story short is Yelp does impact, and it's connected to your Apple Maps. So that is a very important that you actually utilize it that way. So that makes any sense. And I know that, we down and actually do it by line, but I think you guys can do it. For me, what was important, and as a business owner, what would be important is those little things that I didn't know about. Like, I was in business 4 years before I know that Apple and Yelp were like this, Had about it. Would I improve my business? No, I think I always try to do the best I can, but I've maybe paid attention to some of those customers and answered them back so that they're just not left there, So.
Is there a way that you can start entering information but not go through that, okay, I'm ready, go ahead and review it, so that you can make changes as you go along without having to go through waiting periods again and again and again? I
think my experience has been that with Google, it's much easier. Google is very good about the turnaround. Like usually within hours, I get an update. And we'll Google here, but you'll see that sometimes customers will make updates to you. Like if you're Wi-Fi, or if you say that you provide Wi-Fi, the customer can actually go in there and say that you don't. And you'll actually see it as a review that'll say, please review customers, what your customers are saying about it. You say you have Wi-Fi, but your customers are saying that you don't. And so that will actually be able to see that on your Google profile as well too, if that makes sense. So, but that question Yes, you can get ahead of it. My experience with Apple was though, which is exactly what I tried to do. I got ahead of it, didn't work out. So what I'm most likely going to have to do is actually take that off and then start all over again as well too. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, yes, I would prepare off of this grill here, like have your updated, open, you're ready to rock and roll. You know what I mean? But they will make sure that you're open. Like if you here, you say I'm open, and then you're turned off on Google, they'll see that, they'll find out, you know. Or a website coming soon, you know, next week saying you're open here, they won't open it.
Okay, so saying you're open is the trigger that
Yes.
says, okay, it better be right now.
It better be right, because they do check, and obviously over the course of the years, obviously they've gone through the process of a lot of unorthodox, or you know, not that are out there, and so they try to make sure that it is authentic as well, and that's how they do it. So, any questions about that before we move forward? Hopefully that kind of helps a little bit for you. But I think the takeaway here from me on Apple is to have your information ready and like what you before you put it on here. Now I will I talked to you guys about the brand and how it has to be an unaltered for that you actually add on there. That you can do whatever you want. It's just for the brand. When people look for the brand and your brand, it has to be that specific. But you can add any picture to that afterwards. Like there's a place you can add your service or what your menus or whatever it is that you want to do as well too.
So your brand is like the digital advertising logo or
Exactly. Logo plus one, like if you're at Starbucks on Apple Maps, you'll see a generic one.
okay.
And that's that picture that I showed
And when
earlier.
you say generic, it doesn't mean like a stock.
It's not a stock photo. You actually have to take it with a phone, and it has to be whatever it is, and it has to be unaltered. I already tried it, and like, that's not. I'm gonna get up a little bit. Nope, came back. You know, how to tell that I don't know, but obviously they can. And so, interesting. Yep. Any questions? We're good. Hopefully that kind of helps. But not a lot of information, but I think these are things that I thought would be very beneficial for me when opening a business. You know, so. Over to Google. Okay, so this is my Google. I don't know if you guys know this, but so this right now is currently in my business view. This is not a customer view. This is business view. And the reason why I can tell is because it tells me how many people have interacted with it. Right up there. And you can kind of see that 7,900 customers are interacting with my review. That doesn't mean that people are going into the website. It just means that they're looking at my Google. And so you can kind of see that this one is my location that we just opened on Southern, right? And it obviously it tries you know, tell you as far as like be able to advertise a little bit more. You guys have all seen this, right? Yeah. So by your phones, you guys know that that's like actually live for people on the phones as well too. And it's interesting because I actually tested it and they're like spot on. Like they tell you how long a customer is actually in your place of business. Like, and they tell you, so here, usually no wait. So that's live right now. It's at 9 a.m. and tells you, so it's a little busy at my store right now, but it also tells you that there's no wait. And they track that basically on, you know, how far in that business based on the geofencing on there. Yeah. You know what geofencing is? Yeah. Yeah. People think it's actually, you know, because actually it's just when you put this business is how long around you're going to be advertising or you know, people can find you at certain areas.
So now that people are more in tune to geofencing and privacy and whatnot, and it's like I have my phone, so it's credit cards and stuff, that'll affect your data.
It will. But at the end of the day, this is not, if you were to go to my restaurant, it probably would not pick you up, right? So, but it's based on the number of people that are there on average. So yeah, it won't just include you. Yeah. But if it's one customer and that happens to be you, then it will show that we're slow. Yeah, but the thing is that there's not a lot of people that have VPNs on their phone currently right now, you know. Yeah. VPNs on their phone. No. Yeah. Yeah. Most times if it's a work phone, you'll have a VPN on it, but most people don't have them. So they can track you anywhere. So, you know, I already know that they listen to you, right? Right. Yeah. It might show up on your phone after you leave here because I said Kolache Café, just so you know. But that's how it works, you know what I mean? And so that's, you know. So with Google's, it's a little bit easier, right? And so let's look into adding a business here. So for example, with Google, there's a lot of really good information. What I love about Google You can put a business on there, and it is actually like very quick. Turnaround is like within 24 hours, you can make some of those changes right away. So here, to somebody's point, you go in there and start doing it. Now, here's the interesting part. Let me pull this one up for you. Let's see if it has my locations here. Well, just so I don't change it. Google, I have multiple locations that I add into my account. They also do a verification. The verifications are now getting a little different. I'll give you my when I opened up the location on Gilbert and Southern, it was an existing building. So because it was an existing building, it was easier for me to be able to do it. You know, all I had to do, I think they asked for some document like a bill or something like that that said, hey, I'm going to be open up. My location on Gilbert and 202 is a new building that has not existed, does not have an address. So I was not able to do that because you can't pull up because the addresses haven't been published. And now we're talking about 7-8 months ago before anyone in there. So what ended up happening is I tried the same thing that I did in Apple, get ahead of it and open the business. And they came back at me and said, please take a video of your store that has people coming into the store, your face, and and then send it back.
Wow.
That's exactly what they asked for me. I mean, so you think, I'm like, what? Is this legit? But it is, because that's the only way for them to prove, because they don't have record of the buildings, because there's a new build as well too.
Not only is it a way for them to prove, but it's a way for them to get the new data on the structures and stuff that are there, instead of having a car drive by with a camera and pick it up.
I'm that.
Free. Google's getting it from Jose.
Yeah. But because it's because that doesn't say that you're open. It just says that you've been approved to be open.
And do a video and send it to them. It has to be live.
Yeah.
You're logged in to your profile.
Oh, and it cannot be altered.
Right.
Well, because it has to
live.
log into your profile.
Oh yeah. Things that I didn't know, right? So I'm trying to open it now. Oh, I'm gonna get ahead of it so people can start looking at it. And all of a sudden, boom! I can't open my business up as well too. And so these are little interesting things that happen because of it. Now, let me see if I can get to, but look at all the information. Hopefully you guys have access to this, but if you don't, I highly recommend that you have access to your business page because it has a lot of very good information for you. Like it even do perception, right? So 46 people, let's see. So 46 people reported, that my price point is between $1 and $10, right? So again, if you're trying to charge for something that you're economically, you're not, cost whatever, they ask your reviewers, and it actually goes on there as well too. So everything is from your phone is actually here. How long it takes. If you have a drive-through, it tells them how long people are going to the drive-through. Yeah, so they know everything about it. But the great part about it is be able to take advantage of them. If you look at here, if what comes in here, they can purchase from me right here. They can order for delivery, or they can order for pickup. They can call the store, they can do directions, they can do my reviews, the menu, and the phone number, and they can share it. But this is information that you actually have to do when you set up your account. So again, if you're a consumer, like all, what would be important to you and to your business? If you do not have a brick and mortar, how are people going to come and find you? Because you don't necessarily have to have a brick and mortar to have this, right? You can have this, but to know what business you're in. And so make it easy for them to be able to do business with you however they want to based on what you sell. If they say it right, hopefully I said it right. But it's about me. I want people to order online and show up at my location. Order online and directions. Super important for me.
If you don't have brick and mortar, it's very hard to get it done.
It is.
It won't.
Yeah. Okay.
It has evolved, because I used to be, before I had my brick and mortar, it just said 85283 in Tempe where I lived, and kept getting updates eventually, and luckily I got into a place, but it's out of that space.
Yeah.
It would show me, but you had to be so specific in order for, and I only knew because I was testing it out.
Right. It makes sense. I had opened businesses before where it was only online, and it worked. I haven't done that in a long time, so I couldn't speak to that. But I know that when you're filling out the application, it says, are people coming to your place of business to do business, or are you going to them? And so it does allow you to be able to do that. I don't know how it's changed though, but it's hard.
But then you have a shop.
Yeah.
Like if like a
Yeah.
repair to your business.
Right.
But you still have a physical location.
Yeah. Does it sell a service out of their home that does not have brick and mortar? Yeah. And so have you been able to build this Google? Yes.
But I did it like
Long time.
10, 12 years ago.
10, 12 years ago. Yeah. So things have changed, and unfortunately, I can't speak to that because it's been a long time since I've done that. But I can speak to the brick and mortar part of the business as well too. So.
One thing I found on this that's awesome is you can do an ad update, and it's unlimited and it's free, and they actually showcase those a lot. So
Okay.
for example, you could have a picture of a newsletter,
Yeah.
and they put those up right up top.
Yeah.
So that's been good because you don't have to do the ads as much.
Yeah. And I think this is a tool that's very underutilized,
Yeah.
including myself,
I know.
because we were very quick to
Can you say it? I missed it.
So there's like up top, you see there's an ad.
Yeah.
So over under your business in Google, it's like, right, you can click that and you can do a picture and you can have like an essay, or you can just have a few words. It's unlimited. You can add them anytime you want. And so everyone will see that when they look at your account.
Oh, wow.
So you could do like, he could put in the new flavors.
Yep.
You could put in a new staff member. You could put in like an open.
discounts. If you're having a discount, you can put a discount in there as well too.
You could do that
Yeah.
daily or times a day, there's no limit, and it actually comes up before an ad. So you know how the paid ads?
Yeah.
This is more visible.
So if I do an offer right here,
It's just a matter of doing it. Like, I try
so you
to-
do the
It's like
dates.
posting. It's
Yep.
like social posts.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
I just will say really quick that Kim back here, it does marketing and digital marketing. She's actually very familiar
Sure,
with
sure.
all the stuff you're doing. And when you were talking about how you had to do the video and you have to show people coming in,
Yeah.
it's real time. It's got to have the crossroads.
Yep.
She actually has people who go out and do that for you.
Okay.
So if is looking to do this stuff, I just recommend hire Kim. She'll just do it for you.
Thank you.
And she will also, if you get a Yelp review or a Google review, she monitors those. She will respond to them within 24 hours
Right.
on your behalf.
Right.
So, for
That's very
anybody's
cool.
interested, please call Kim.
No, absolutely.
I'll pay her later.
But again, like I didn't know that was out there, and so it would, and for the I business at a different level. I think we had a business seminar once a long time ago, and they talked about different levels of your business. When you're starting out, when you're evolving, and then, when you get, and then the different terminology. I can't remember what they were, but my point of it is that I think we sell ourselves short on investing in things like that because we think it costs too much money and we can do them on our own. Man, that was a hard lesson for me to learn, right?
3 years
Yeah,
later,
3
you're
years
trying
later.
to that.
I'm still unverified.
Which is fine
100%.
For the dollars you would pay Kim to do
Yeah,
it for you.
yeah. And I have a phrase, we kind of always from our pocket, right? Like whatever time we can afford is kind of what to invest in. But because it's like things you don't know until you invest into marketing or any type of that.
Technology has changed so much.
100%.
10 years ago, 5 years ago. So platforms, these young ladies here has made me aware of platforms that I did not know that could be used. Because back in the day, we had hard copies of the newspaper.
Yeah.
Go to the New Times, you had to go to stuff like, all now you can just get on the websites.
Yeah.
And you can access yourself. You had to go to the post office has something that's called a postal direct where you had to go get menus or whatever. So this is a part of where we're going.
So there's two caveats that I've learned as a business owner. Number one, it's great because we can get on it now,
Yep.
but so can anybody, which means like your competitors are just as good as you are. So having somebody like, who marketing who can help you do it a little bit better, it makes you stand out from your competitors or from other places in the market as well too. And so that's why, I now, like, it was shoestring budget, right? But when we started, but man, had I known about this stuff, I would probably still have hair. And that
But it's
valuable.
like, it's like anything else. You don't know what
You don't know what you don't know, right?
The business I work with, they're really busy.
Yeah.
So they don't have time to
Right.
answer in 24 hours.
Yeah. I think having these are really good. You know what I mean? But anyway, for coming and that's why I think having these things are very good for people because it connects like real time your businesses that are out there, right? And how it actually can help out.
So you can have this offer like daily?
Yeah.
And does the old one just disappear?
It's still on there,
It
but
has a
this
date.
one- Oh, yes.
It has a start date and an end date.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah. So for you guys, you do this is an event. This is an offer, but let's do an event.
Yeah, so that we host an event
Yep.
here every month.
Yeah. So if you update,
Yeah,
add in, and there it is.
Yeah.
okay.
And you put your picture in there, and this will show up on your Google, which will probably have, I'll use in social media. Social media is strange to people that follow you for the most part.
Well, and there's tools that you
Yeah.
can use, I don't know if you know, there's tools you can use that you can set it up and it just will post on everything.
Yeah. Our website that for us, like we use, and that's just because for our restaurants, and I place and it goes to all of them.
Yeah.
So it text messages, emails, Instagram, and Facebook. So all in one click, but it costs a lot of money. It does.
Like this event, is there a charge per?
Nope,
No, it's unlimited.
it is free.
Okay.
Yeah, it's free. Yeah.
And the other question I had is, you were talking about ads. What about check-ins, like on Yelp, where like if you get in, you get a free appetizer kind of thing?
I haven't encountered it with Google, but Yelp allows you to be able to do that.
Do you think those are
Yeah.
worth it, or have you tried them?
I have gone business from it, for me. So I've tried everything under the sun, right? So I do Google AdWords, I did ads, I did flyers, I've done, if you name it in the stars, I've done it. But at the end of the day, marketing, at least for me, has been an evolution, right? It's an evolution because it's one of those things, and we always talk about it. The big fish get the big fish because they have big fish bait.
Yeah.
Little guys have little baits, and you get the little fish. And so how can you get big, as a fish, get the big ones out there? Well, you do have to invest in some marketing out there as well too. I've also done the mistake of not hiring a person like yourself and gone into Facebook and Instagram, $10, $10, $10. And all of a sudden, I can't, my business on how many people liked it. But last time I checked, I couldn't put any of those in my bank. And that was a tough. And so again, it's that engagement and how to be able to actually create stuff that gets people in the door. I hired a marketing company. I fired my old one that did just that. Ad. The content is very different. And so, but I think it's an evolution. If you were to ask me which one works best, I would say what part of my business, like I said, they've all been a little bit of an evolution. And so, we've been blessed that we can spend a little more money on our advertisement, and it allows you to be able to grow.
So do you use Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, and?
No. So I do a lot more now, social media. So I recently hired a social media guru, and they use a lot of influencers. And because my product that I sell is a very unique product, and people know what it is, it has to be a lot of visual, explaining what a kolache is on the outside, and then the uses of that as well. But I think a lot of you can actually benefit from that, because a lot of things, whatever you name it, what that you sell that is different than somebody else, and what the value is. For me, at least, in my current time, and if you ask me a week from now, I might change my mind. But right now, it's that exposure of people knowing what our business is. And I already tried throwing ads. Now we're doing influencers. See how that works as well too. Yeah.
And also claim your business on Microsoft?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Because Microsoft has a
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah. Your question, I have not. No.
Because your
So-
reviews won't show up on Google, show up on Microsoft.
What Microsoft? Oh, Bing. Yeah.
Bing.
The reason why we don't do it, honestly, is because I don't use Bing. And a lot of times when you don't use that platform, you don't make that association. You know what I mean?
Bing converts really,
Yeah.
really.
And I'm
a lot of-
surprised.
And they whole same thing, you claim your
Yeah.
business.
And Waze has it too as well. You have to do it as well. But if you were to ask me why I haven't done it, I would say I don't know.
And there becomes so much, you
Right.
just get overwhelmed, but
Yeah.
one back to all users use Bing.
This is really, yeah, right. But it's a little different because one is correct me if I'm wrong, but Bing search engine, right? And the other one is more of a platform, food reviewers, recommendations. It's used a little bit different, I think. But for me, it was good to be up here. I am not an expert, but I can tell you what frustrations I've gone through, and to some of your points, I saw some marketing people, and I thought it was interesting when I talk about this because you guys are the experts. But I can tell you how I feel as a small business. I can give you the frustrations. Maybe be able to get people like yourself, a professional, that might be able to help us. And the investment is quite,
So regarding your influencer, are they local only?
Yes, allegedly. Yeah. Again, it's a different world. But it doesn't matter because I've done ads and then I'm like, oh my God, you got to come up to Minnesota. Why is a Minnesota person getting my ad? At some point, there was something that kind of to them. So it's not a perfect.
Is it easier to do Google than it is to do Apple Maps, or is Apple Maps easier than Google?
I don't know if easier is the way I would use. Google has more information in it, but it can, like, they ask a lot more information. But for me, it helps because if somebody says, I need a restaurant that has a patio, like if you on there Google patio, it'll pop up, or it'll pop restaurants in your area that have potential patios that have out there.
Well, and Apple Maps is just for maps.
Maps. Yep. Yeah. That's the difference. Like, and again, Google used a lot more. I have Apple and I still use Google.
Well, like voice is more prevalent on Apple than it is on Google, right?
I think it depends on your phone.
Okay.
Because
well, it's more prevalent on Apple.
Yeah.
For sure. So, how do you get on voice search for that? Do you same thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Interesting, because on the way over here, I was Siri, directions cafe, and at first it wouldn't recognize it because it didn't know what a kolache was. Yeah. But then I said kolache, and then it found it because of the pronunciation, right?
Yeah.
But it's not perfect, right? Because of kolache. So if a lot of you guys that have those name, especially if it's a Hispanic name or something, it's gonna have some, problem rolling of the R's,
Yeah.
right? So it may or may not pull it up. That's what I found, at least from my perspective. So, but anyway, I think my time's up. They only paid me for 40 minutes worth of. So hopefully it's helpful. I'm an expert, but I am definitely, But anyway, you're very welcome.
All right. But personally, I want to thank everybody for coming. I thought it was great. I didn't know how to do any of this, and I took copious notes, so now we're going to start putting businesses on, so when people call the chamber, we can start putting them to go on, especially Apple Maps, because it's the most voice searched thing in our phones. Apple Maps is, so it's more than Google, so people talk to Siri all the time. Okay,
Siri, yes?
yes, I do. But thanks, everyone.
Well,